Rivalry week is here. Plenty of teams still open and available to make it to their conference championship game. Also, a lot of jobs to be filled and dominoes to fall. This is the College GameDay Podcast. We want to be among the first to wish you a happy Thanksgiving week. Rece Davis, Pete Thamel, and Dan Wetzel. And Dan, before we get into the unimportant topics of football games and rivalries and coaching jobs, I think the first thing we need is the status of Pete's suit after Pete versus the Oregon Duck on game day Saturday. Don't you agree with this, not burying the lead and starting with Pete's suit?
I hope that Duck buys you a suit.
He should. I hope.
There's a vague reference from the Ducks handler. The only real warning I had was a vague reference to the Ducks handler of, I think we're going to have to buy you a suit. And I was like, oh, okay. And then the Duck really tricked me because the Duck came out with the cards, and I give the Duck credit. I saw the Duck in Columbus for Coach Corso, and I tried to FaceTime the Duck with Teddy, my 3-year-old son, right? And then the Duck showed up in State College, came up to me, pointed at my phone, which was in my hand, and I was like, what do you want from my phone? And this is a month and a half later, and he was like, call your son. And he told the handler. So we FaceTime Teddy. So I was like, the Duck kind of like built a relationship, and then just like for that moment to like completely jilt me. And then he came out with like the glasses and the headset, and he had some funny things written on the cards that weren't the funny things that showed up on TV. Yeah. So he really hoodwinked me. It was like a long entrapment, basically.
Now Teddy loves animals, but
he does.
What is Teddy's feeling toward the Duck at this moment?
Teddy Thamel hates the Duck. He thought what the Duck did to his dad was mean.
Rude.
And last night he said, Dada, is the Duck in duck jail? There was some parental regret showing it to him because he was very shaken. He thought it was a mean Duck. That's not nice, Dad. That's not nice, he said.
I'm siding with Teddy on this.
Me
Can
too.
we let Pete just do his job? He's giving us important information on injuries. This man's a professional. He does not need to be the punchline of these gags. I'm on Teddy's side here. Stay away, Duck. And enough with you can talk to your handler, but not what is this Duck code, this mascot code? Enough. I'm on Teddy's side. Duck goes to jail. Oregon's got a hell of a team, but the Duck's out of line. Let Pete do his work, please. He's very good at it.
Pete, I do have an idea. Should we wind up in Eugene for a first-round playoff game, say, and the Duck is banging around, I think maybe you should come out, like Elmer Fudd, dressed to Elmer Fudd, complete with duck hunting gear, and let him know you're serious about this. So you're not putting up with this anymore.
Remember the Nintendo game?
One way. Yeah.
Remember the Nintendo game Duck Hunt?
Duck Hunt? I do. Have you ever played that? I played it fairly recently with my daughter on Switch.
Interesting.
I think that you would probably enhance your score if you just pretended all of those ducks were actually the Oregon Duck and you'd go after it.
I'd be
throwing
locked
right
in.
off the side of the building and all of that. Right?
Yeah, he got me. This is the state of my suit is so in peril that I did not because Gatorade's very sticky. I did not even take it out of the bag that I put it in the hotel. So I went back to the hotel, took a shower, threw it in a bag, and it is still in the bag, and it will be transferred to a very surprised dry cleaner, I'm sure. And thoughts and prayers to the blue suit. Last time we went, I actually wore an old suit because I kind of thought something may happen, and this time I didn't, and that would prove to be a costly mistake.
So after the suit got dried out, or you got out of it and put it in the bag and all of that, this past weekend, not a lot changed things on the field. And I'm going to go off script just a little bit and start because Pete, I texted you, Dan, I should have included you in this thread. I became very upset with Pat Narduzzi Saturday night. I didn't care if Georgia Tech or Pittsburgh won the game. Just watching the game, ACC title game implications. What was that fake punt up? It was a near fireable offense. He brought losing into the equation. They did. Why would you do this? I mean, dude, the situation we're talking about. We're up a couple of scores here. You're up 14 points. The clock. Beat the clock. So it's fourth down. punt the ball away, make them go the length of the field. I know Tech was gaining some momentum. They fake a punt, and it wasn't even really that clever or creative, and they got stuffed. Tech immediately scores and gets back in the game. And Pitt's very, very fortunate to be going into this game against Miami this weekend and still have a chance after doing that. Usually the karma frowns upon you and costs you the game when you do something as ill-advised, to put it kindly, as that.
I think it'd be a fascinating study. This isn't defending the choice. I just want to step back from this and say, how many fakes, field goals, punts that don't work? What percentage of them are called on the field by the people who say, if we have this look, if we see this, we call them, kind of no matter the situation? What percentage are called on the field and what percentage are called on the sideline? Now, look, it's still bad coaching to not communicate that it's there.
It's off. I'm not, right. Yes. You got to say it's off.
Yes. Yes, correct. I'm not totally absolving the coaching part of that, but I would just always find that pretty interesting, because most of the time coaches will not throw whoever it is, center, snapper, kicker, under the bus for the look, but situational awareness is obviously the biggest thing there. But that is my macro thought. The Fighting Narduzzis, who take ACC games very seriously, went on and won their ACC games. So
they did.
Have you seen some of these ACC tiebreaker things?
I have.
Oh, I know you like a good tiebreaker, Rece.
I do. Would you like to hear? Here's my favorite one, Dan, because the best team in the ACC, who had 2 bad days, Miami. Here's what Miami needs. They need to win, and they need Virginia, Duke to lose, and SMU to win. Or they need SMU to lose and Duke to lose and clinch a tiebreaker. Or they need SMU to lose and Virginia to lose and clinch a tiebreaker. And all of these they have to win. They need SMU then to win, Duke win, Virginia loss, and clinch a tiebreaker against Duke. It's a mess.
Rece, I didn't do that well on the ACT or SAT, so I don't know what the hell you just said. Okay? First off, no criticizing Narduzzi. He was keeping it interesting. It was kind of a boring day. It wasn't admitted here. We love the sport.
That's
okay.
Fair. And maybe it's a special teams coordinator, and maybe Pat wore him out later, and he should have. I don't know.
Maybe a guy who said we'll lose by 100, and I don't care, 1 week, then comes back, and it kind of is proven right. Who cares? You still got a shot. Don't fight with Narduzzi. Listen, the way they got to do this tiebreaker, the way they got to do it, is the way the Texas high school football playoffs do it. And they had one this year. They famously had one in Friday Night Lights, but they had one this year. Amarillo High School won a 3-way coin flip in the middle of the night, right? They had a 3-way tie in their district. They had to figure out who could get into the playoff, and they all met at a Toot and Totem gas station in Plainview, Texas. The local TV filmed it. They had the local reporters. They all threw a coin in the air. If one's tails, 2 heads, the tails wins. One's head, whatever it goes down, that's how you get it. We got to get all these ACC coaches at like a Buc-ee's or something, or a Waffle House, or a cookout, whatever we got, the parking lot somewhere.
That's ACC. I like that. Great
Bojangles.
Right?
Bojangles.
Yeah.
Bojangles. It's bow time. Let's all get together, and then flip those coins. That's how you do it. Enough with this whatever the hell Rece just said. I don't know. Don't care. I know how coins work. Everybody flip the coin.
ACC network programming. Let's go.
Let's go. ESPN family and networks. We could do great with this.
We'll do it at the cookout. And I'm really taking us off track here. Every time I see Cookout, which, by the way, Cookout is a great fast food place. Tremendous. And they do indeed have great shakes. There was a time years ago that I was not familiar with Cookout necessarily. We were in Charlottesville, Virginia for basketball. And I'm riding in the car with Seth Greenberg. And if you're listening, you can't see this, but I'm picking up my cell phone to imitate Seth. And Seth is on the phone doing the Seth Greenberg counseling service for some coach, probably Izzo or Calipari. He's like, you got her down this ball screen, and the whole thing. And we ride by the Cookout, and he's mid thought with press break, downing ball screens, and Seth goes, Cal, I don't know, you got to take care of that. Cookout, great shakes, and then went right back to that. He was pointing to the Cookout, great shakes. So Billis and I know every time we see a cookout, we say, great shakes. So
Great shakes.
A lot of years in Blacksburg. So
that's true.
yeah.
That's true. So,
while we're on the ACC, this was unplanned, but what did you guys think of Justin Wilcox getting fired? That was that one sort of came as a sideswipe last night.
Don't lose by 21 to your arch rival. It's rivalry week, and let everybody know.
Yeah, arch rival who's ungood and in transition themselves. I think if it had been 31-28, it would have been irritating, but perhaps not costing him his job. And
ungood.
I always say, guys,
word.
if you're going to fire a coach over one game, your decision should have already been made. But I guess that there are extenuating circumstances sometimes. If you are kind of on the cusp, you'd rather keep him, and then you have this, this moment where you get the feeling as an administrator or Ron Rivera, who's running football for Cal, that you know what. We've got to shake something up here. It's just not that this is not it, to be as thoroughly manhandled as they were, beaten as badly as they were. So I feel bad for Justin. I think he's done a really good job there, and I think he's a good coach. But things sometimes get a little stale, and you got to shake things up. And I think that's where they were, especially after that loss to Stanford.
I guess the better pod topic on this, Dan, is: do you risk losing Sagapulatelli by firing him? Like, is that guy good enough? Like, he could be your next Aaron Rodgers type top 15. I guess Rodgers, whatever, first round pick, Jared Goff, whoever. He could be your next once a decade guy. Do you risk losing him? Which I think that has to increase exponentially with Justin Wilcox being fired by firing him. I think this is like the modern risk reward that probably wasn't a pod topic 5 years ago.
Well, I don't know this, but you also don't know if that's what the star players looking. It may keep them. You never know how that relationship is. I have absolutely no idea.
I've been told they're pretty tight.
Tight. So maybe he leaves. Maybe he leaves anyway. It's a tough go for Justin Wilcox. I mean, look, you're Cal and you're in the ACC. You kind of need a little bit of a grace period. You had Mendoza, he leaves. Now you get the star freshman. Can you build off of that? I think with all the California schools, and basically the 4 Division I, but there's really 3 that are, Stanford's just a different beast. Somebody needs to grab the reins here, because none of the programs are, SC. I'm sure we'll talk a little about it. It's going, but it isn't quite going how they want it. Now, they got a great recruiting class coming in, but it's kind of spinning its wheels. UCLA spinning its wheels significantly. Cal spinning its wheels. Stanford, there's 34 million people living in the state of California. Somebody's got to be good. So if you get the right guy and you just keep a marginal amount of the local talent around, you should get pretty good. And none of them are really doing it right now. Certainly not to the levels that they want. If SC is your bell cow for the state of California. So I think there's a little bit of an opportunity for Cal, but I feel bad for a coach that gets thrown into something like, look, we're going along. It's not going tremendous at Cal, but you put somebody in the ACC and it is an enormous challenge. And no one's giving them the break and talking about all these long trips and all this stuff. So, should Justin Wilcox have got another year? I don't know. But somebody at these California schools, it's right for someone to grab and win.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I don't know the relationship with Sagapulatelli and Justin Wilcox as you do, Pete. But my question would be, do you even know you would have kept him anyway? Because it's business. I mean, and maybe you can, maybe you can't. But the broader question about the ACC now, and they got very upset when this was broached earlier, but it is once again a topic. It's not beyond the realm that the ACC doesn't get its champion into the playoff. Now, maybe Miami still gets in there as an at-large, and they still have some ground to cover, but this is back on the table again. And this would be an extraordinarily frustrating thing for the ACC because their bell cows came up flat this year. Pete, I think maybe I'm going to give you credit, and I'm sure you did probably break the news that I guess Florida State is not going to make the change, regardless of what happens. They're going to stay the course. But the ACC is in dire straits about this. I think they probably will get whoever emerges as champion into the field, into the college football playoff field. It's not a lock. I mean, it depends on, how the voting looks, or how the rankings, I should say, work at the end. And then as far as USC, Dan, I'm not really that down on them. I thought Oregon played extremely well, but to your point, they've now had two huge games. They didn't come through, and then that Illinois game that they let get away. If they had won the Illinois game, we'd probably say, okay, they've made a giant step. They're just not quite there with the really good teams yet. And some of the perception might even be impacted by, does Oregon go ahead and finish the deal against Washington this week, or do they stumble again and then they're in peril as well? But it's an interesting thing about the expanded conferences and how it's impacted teams in the directions they're going and sustaining success and winning at the level at which they believe they are entitled, and which in most cases are largely accustomed to, in USC's case anyway.
Yeah, should we talk about Florida State or USC first?
Whoever you want, man.
Dan, USC.
All right, USC, I'll talk about. You talk about FSU. Yeah, they're not bad. They're good. They're 20th or something like that. Mm-hmm. But you hired Lincoln Riley. You paid him an enormous amount of money to have USC at least in the playoffs. I mean, they didn't have a playoff at that point, a 12 team, but to get the team at national relevance, and they're really good at home. They haven't been good on the road. Some of that was like, well, they keep having to go east. Well, this isn't east. This was just the Pac-12 championship game here. And, my problem was they were sloppy, right? Special teams got them against Notre Dame too. Bad penalties, things like that. It's not just, are we getting enough talent? They have this great recruiting class coming in right now. Can they get them all signed? Can they get them all on campus? We'll see. There's always a little bit at the end, but USC has got that, and they've got some momentum. I called them a momentum program, I think, a week ago, and that's what they are. When they get rolling, they can really get rolling. It has not happened yet under Lincoln Riley. So they're 8-3. Maybe they get to 9-3. That's better than 7-6 from a year ago, but it's still not there. And so they're not popping the way that they thought. If you sat there and said, hey, you guys just got Lincoln Riley, you lured him out of Oklahoma, the middle of the night deal, you got him, all the excitement. Hey, in 2024 and 2025, you're going to go 7-6 and maybe 9-3. People are going to be like, really? That's it? 8-5 in 2023. They're not there. They're not there. So I'm not saying it's a disaster, but this team was, I was unimpressed with I just found it to be a sloppy, not great performance on Saturday. They have players, man. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of talent, and they got more coming in, and maybe they can recruit their way out of all the issues.
Yeah, I think the special teams really stood out for me, right? If you have a hallmark of a good program, you have to have three great sides of the ball. And that was one of the worst big game special team performances of the season. There's no other way to put it. The leaping penalty, missed chip shot field goal, kick, like it was literally like a medley of everything that could go wrong on special teams. And at a certain point, holistically, that comes down to coaching, that comes down to discipline, that comes down to flinching in the big moments. The other place too where they just haven't quite caught up is the trenches. You saw their excitement beating Iowa, because I think as a program they felt like they answered that narrative when they kind of outlasted them in that rainstorm last week. But yeah, if you are USC, in no world did you think especially after Lincoln had a really good first season there with Caleb.
He was one game away from the playoff, from the 14.
Yeah, Caleb
playoff.
got hurt in that Utah Pac-12 title game, but they didn't make it, and it's been uneven since then. I mean, this is now 3 straight Selection Sundays where they're not even in the conversation for it. It's been interesting. They have built everything around him. Very few of the initial staff he took from Oklahoma are still on the coaching staff at USC. Few of the support staff are there. The ones who are there have been people kind of supplanted in their roles. You go strength coach, you get a new GM. Mm-hmm. Like they have rebuilt around Lincoln Riley. And I think next season, again, like is going to feel a little bit like the playoff or bust. The buyout there, I believe, I haven't looked at it since the start of the season, was in the $80 million range. I don't think they're going to fire Lincoln Riley. It's a tough market right now. You know what I mean? Competing for high end coaches. But he is sort of that curse of modern college football, where he has been good but not great. And,
as you keep your ear to the ground, I accept the proposition that they won't fire him. As you keep your ear to the ground, has his name popped up with any of these other places that are open?
Yeah,
especially
it
as second tier. But Lane Kiffin can't coach all of them.
Yes, that is correct. You know, his name would be linked more if there were more Texas centric jobs, Big 12 centric jobs. Again, Joey McGuire is like going to be the coach of the year. He's doing awesome, But like if that were a little bit in flux, you don't think Cody Campbell would want to bring the Sun home in theory, right? That is again not happening. Nobody's talking about that, but like that's his world, and that's where he was his best, and that's where he was dominant. Was in the Big 12 when Oklahoma was in the Big 12. I think his name would have emerged at Baylor if Baylor had decided to make an opening and had a little more stability in their athletic department. Now, again, would he actually go do it? His name came up as a signal flare at North Carolina last year. There was no traction. There. Look, if you're an SEC program, one of these three that wants to go win a national championship, like he's had a lot of resources, and he's had a top 10 job. I think we'd all agree USC's a top 10 job, and he hasn't been able to do what you would be hiring him to do. So, and no one's going to argue with Lincoln Riley's play calling acumen. Nobody's going to argue with his offensive acumen. That's still perceived to be at the top of the sport. It's running the holistic program to complement that where he has lagged. So I'm not saying there's been no interest from those schools, but I don't see that. I'd be pretty surprised if it ended up that way.
When you broke that Norvell was going to stay.
So I didn't actually. Andrea Adelson broke that for us.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Andrea, I was unbelievable reporter. I know that's you guys are very touchy about that, but
I just want to give credit where it's due.
I know it's your currency. I'm okay, Andrea. My apologies. When Andrea broke it, when it came out that Florida State was going to keep Mike Norvell, $58 million, probably a motivating factor. I think Mike Norvell is a really good coach who has not done a good job navigating one of the great disappointments in the history of the sport. And I think the whole malaise around the program last year and falling off the cliff has continued to dwell. But it looked as if because, they have found ways to lose games this year as opposed to being non-competitive, which they were a year ago. But Friday night, speaking of sloppy special teams, the muff punt happens. The one that hit the guy in the head, that doesn't happen. And it's not because the guy didn't get out of the way on the short punt. The ball hit a Florida State player in the head and then catapulted like nearly 30 yards back toward the punter from NC State, who recovered it and gave them a first down.
Never seen that.
I've never seen that either.
Ever.
I've seen all kinds of wild, weird bounces of the ball. That ball looked like it was shot out of a jugs machine and went right back to the punter, who made a nice play recovering it. But that was when I thought, you know what? Maybe they need to change. Maybe this is just not going to work. But the flip side of it is maybe that was it. Maybe all of the angst and, whether you want to say just bad luck, bad karma, penance, whatever it might have been for everything that happened a few years ago, maybe that was it. Maybe that was the bottom, and now Florida State will right the ship and start heading back up. I don't know, but sometimes a little patience can do you good, especially if you're going to be on the tail end of the job market right now and not able to get in on the coaches that you might want to otherwise. I hope it works out for Mike. I think Mike's a good coach who's kind of let it get a little sideways here, and I hope that they can figure it out there. So,
can I make a point on the coaching carousel real quick?
Yeah, go.
Let me read you a list of I just made this list. I might be missing somebody. Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, McGuire, Venables, Freeman, Sataki, Lee, Moore, Sharon Moore, Elliott. All those guys, they're all in the top 17. I think that's 11. I'm counting, maybe 12. Might be someone else. None of them were a head coach until they got the job.
That's right.
None of them. They were all coordinators. So when we go into this thing and everyone's going Lane, and I got to get this guy, and I got to get Summerall, and they all might be great. But if you find the coordinator, It's not these hotshot coaches that the big hires that are winning. That's your playoff field right there. Most of them. Kyle Whittingham's in there.
Yeah.
Right. Did I say him twice? Maybe.
You didn't.
No, you did not.
I mean, as a long time ago, but still,
No.
None of these guys were head coaches until they got to be the head coach. So just on a side note, everyone's going, well, I can't get this guy. Well, maybe you can identify somebody who's just sitting there on a staff, your staff, who knows?
Dan, to your point, I know everybody's mad at him right now. Dabo Swinney's won 2 national championships and played for 2 more and been in the playoffs other times too. So,
The only coaches that have won a national title are Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, and Dabo Swinney currently. None of them were head coaches before. So you throw Dabo in, there's others, but just if you're just looking at your top 17 and that's 11 or 12 of them, I think it's 11. You don't need these. You don't need to be in this derby. You need to find somebody.
It's a fantastic point, and I would say in these big jobs there aren't a lot of high-end coordinator candidates that are in the throes of these searches. Now, I'll counter that point by saying this: never has the coordinator skill set been less tied to the head coach skill set as we are right now. So, coordinator, you are game planning, you are calling plays, you are scripting, you are the head coach of the offense or the defense, whatever it is. You are fully focused on the game, week to week recruiting, your position, all that stuff. You are micro in that. And the sport's never been more macro, right? Like, you got to understand the cap. You got to understand like all the big looming issues that go over. The head coaches have never been less connected to ball. Like, you talk about Kirby Smart doesn't call defensive plays anymore. Ryan Day doesn't call offensive plays anymore. The shift is Mike Norvell doesn't call offensive plays anymore. The shift is away from being hands-on with ball to manage all the things that are away from the coordinator skill set. So I'm not saying that people shouldn't be considering coordinators, but there's even more hesitation to hire a coordinator now than there was before, just because those skill sets don't match. The trend the last couple of years, Dan, has really been to go to FCS to find guys at that level to pull up because they've managed the roster, slotted salaries, built a front office, done all of that front-facing stuff. So again, it's a great point that you make. That feels like one of those columns you just actually verbalized out loud, and we're going to read it on like Friday.
You
may have
make it an easy week. It's a holiday week. Come on, it's a holiday week. I
don't want to put any work on you. You can enjoy your potatoes. But it's very interesting times right now, and it is funny how myopic these searches end up getting. Right, we become obsessed with different people, and some of them pan out, some of them don't. Lane Kiffin will be really good if he goes to LSU or Florida. Like, he'll be, there's a proven. You win 10 games, 3 seasons in a row. Will the other stuff be aligned at those places like it has at Ole Miss becomes the question, right? And we don't know. We don't know the answer to that right now.
Where do you think he winds up? You have any hunch?
Dan, you've written 2 columns about Lane. Why don't you start?
Content Kiffin. I will beat a dead horse. Thank you, Lane. Thank you. I mean, look, everything he is doing says he's leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess he can pull this WWE move, or he gets Jesse Palmer down there for The Bachelor. We do a Bachelor finale with the roses. Maybe does it. Like, Lane is going to upstage the Ohio State-Michigan game, which is almost impossible, right? When is this decision that could be on Friday? Everything says he's leaving. I still can't believe a guy would leave on a playoff team. I can't believe it. Let me say this. I thought going into this week, Ryan Day had the most pressure of any coach to win a game. Just win. You got to beat your rival, right? I'm not. I can only imagine how much this guy's hurt. I gotta beat Michigan, right? That's literally the promos. Like, Ohio State beats everyone except Michigan, right? Like, I mean, you sitting there watching football on Sunday, and that's all you hear. And then Lane Kiffin comes and says, "Yeah, hold my hottie toddy. We're going to do this." I mean, they're 8.5-point favorites over in the Egg Bowl. Egg Bowl is crazy. If they lose this game, if Lane Kiffin doesn't win this game on Friday, I don't think he even wants to show up for an announcement, because clearly the distractions would be a factor. Everyone's going to blame him for everything. Ole Miss is not guaranteed to get in the playoff with a loss to Mississippi State. Like, he has to win this game on Friday. I've never seen a coach create more pressure on a single rivalry game than what Lane Kiffin has done. I can't even imagine what happens if he loses. It's not going to be pretty. My guess is he's gone, because why would you risk what's going on right now, the distractions, the frustrations? His team clearly doesn't know. No one knows. Going into such an important game, you have a chance to close out the best regular season, if not ever in the school, then since 60 years. This big moment, and you're running a risk on it. So I guess he's leaving. I guess he's going to LSU, because I cannot imagine why you do this, but I still can't imagine how someone leaves in the middle of and walks away from a playoff team.
They lose in Starkville, Rece. Are they in or they out?
I think some of that might actually depend on Lane, because it is, and as has been pointed out, it is in the criteria that if you lose, and look, we saw it with Florida State in the 14 playoff, and we've seen it in the basketball committee when Kenyon Martin years ago from Cincinnati got hurt. Now, they didn't get left out because there are a bajillion teams in the basketball tournament, but they were a clear 1, and they got dropped to a 2. So in a 12-team field, with it in the criteria, you lose to Mississippi State. You've got a great win at Oklahoma. You've got a solid win against Tulane, who may or may not be in the field, or may or may not be ranked at the end. Solid, but you're down there in the bubble mix, and that could be the determining factor. I would guess, if I had to guess, if they lose to Mississippi State, absent all of these other bubble teams losing also, if they all win and Lane announces that he's not going to be, or they announce that he's not going to be the coach, my guess is they would get left out. That would be my guess. I wouldn't put everything I own on it, but that's what I would guess. And I try not to pay any attention to the blowback you get on the social media, but a lot of Ole Miss people got upset with what I said on game day Saturday, which is like, look, you haven't won anything in 60 years. So I'm just doubling down on it right now. You haven't won anything in 65 years. And I understand the ego. I understand the pride. I understand the whole concept of not wanting someone who no longer wants to be at your place representing you. But collectively, you've got a group. And I've heard all season from coaches about, you have to build your team year to year now. You have a little thread of culture, which is an overused word, but really everything starts over every single year. If that is true, why are you going to short circuit it before the end? You can be as mad at him as you want to. What gives you the best chance to win if you get in the playoff? I would say it's probably leaving him as coach, unless you have a player revolt. If you have which is also unlikely, because they can leave too. That sort of bolstering my point that everything now is year to year. So if it is in fact year to year, finish this year, it's going to put you in a tough spot. Go ahead and go out and try to hire your coach, hire your general manager, get people working the portal for you who will be on the next staff. That will be a Herculean undertaking. I understand all of that. But it's what gives you the best chance to win now. You really want to squander this chance this year. Maybe you're not the favorite, but maybe win the national championship, or at least get in the playoff and win a playoff game or 2. You really want to give that up because the guy doesn't want to be your coach anymore? You don't know that the next guy you hire is going to get you back there. I don't care how aligned you are. A lot of people are aligned and they're not getting there and they're blowing games. You're right there. And if you're there, you should enhance the opportunity to win it, because guess what? He's already the portal king. One of the things that people say might compel him to go elsewhere is because he has to overhaul the roster every year there through the transfer portal. You're doing it anyway. So let the guy finish. Maybe I can understand being as mad as fire at him. I understand all of that. Let him finish. Maybe you can be mad at him on the way out the door when he raises a national championship trophy and leaves it with you in your football building on the way out. Maybe you'll still be really mad at him, and you can go and look at the trophy the next time you go to Oxford and say, you know what, we won in spite of that guy. I'm sorry his name's on the trophy. I'm still mad at him, but hotty toddy, we still have the trophy. That's how I look at it. I know some people disagree with that, but that's how I look at it right now.
The one thing that surprised me a little bit And again, I don't have like a direct line into the psychology of the Ole Miss fan base. But the one of the things that surprised me a little bit was just how irate their fans are.
They're mad.
Yeah, no, they are. And I'm not criticizing that. I want to be clear about that. But
right.
that was one thing. I could understand some frustration, but they are like ready to go, what's the area down there? Is it the square? Yeah. They're like, they're ready to go march the square. Like they are, so can you just think about being an Ole Miss fan, right? You've been a second-tier SEC team for so long. It's been we redshirt Miss America, the Grove, all that stuff, right? For so long. You've had a couple Mannings pop up here and there, but for the most part, other than a couple Hugh Freeze Magics, it's been a pretty light few generations. You finally have the D2 transfer at quarterback. You have the coach. You have the staff, and everything falls into place. And you're on the precipice of what should be like one of the great rivalry games in the history of your school. And the fan base is just obliterated right now in like seething with anger. And this is not some like football hot take. Ole Miss is set up to lay a dinosaur egg, no pun intended, in this egg bowl. Mississippi State is very good. Now, they can't stop anybody. We just saw Ahmad Hardy run for 300 yards against them, right? But they've played Texas really tough at home. They played Tennessee really tough at home. Is Ole Miss considerably better than those two? No, they're better, but not like they're not a world above them. So, plus, weird stuff happens in this game, as we all know, from wide receivers mocking urination to Dak Prescott doing well. Like it is a weird game, and it is a game. Maybe the most interesting part of the fan base, big man. It is a game that like these fans may hate each other more than any other rivalry. It's certainly a top three for pure, unadulterated hatred. These fans hate each other. So that the backdrop is going to be hilarious. You're going to be going into Mississippi State, and they're going to be laughing at you because even though you have one of the best teams in school history, because you're in this like fraught situation with your coach. It is it's a wild. It's just the whole scenario. Like this is the thing about college football. Like you can't make this stuff up. The script would get rejected. It's unbelievably compelling theater. And it can't be a whole lot of fun for Lane to be going through.
Well, he doesn't have to. He can just commit to Ole Miss. You just explained, Rece, I agree in a lot of ways with some of your opinion in a vacuum. But my goodness, you can't just be the battered, spouse here and just sit there and go, I hear you. Please stick around. I mean, Ole Miss has some pride. You don't want to be here? Boot it. You have no idea how much he's going to work preparing a team. He's got another job. Can he do both jobs? That
has been called into question before, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He got fired by Saban because he was at FAU not doing enough, and they scored 14 points against Washington in a set. I covered that game, and it was like, where's the Alabama team? It didn't hear, right? They had about 43 NFL players and scored 14 points, I think, in that game. Maybe it's a different game. I don't know.
That was Washington. That was the game. I think they scored 20.
Washington?
But yeah, it was bad.
Okay.
Like they were.
It wasn't good.
No.
It wasn't what it should have been.
Yeah.
Look, Saban did what Saban did for a reason. You don't switch offensive coordinators and play callers before the national title game unless it is a dire situation, and they didn't win the national title game. Now, they had Steve Sarkisian calling plays. Not too bad. The wealth that they had. But look, I don't blame the school at all. I don't blame the fans. I think this guy's screwing up your dream season. We took a chance on you. We gave you everything. We set up the collective. We risked a lot of stuff. Remember back when the whole NIL was starting? We're a lot of these schools. We're going to be really cautious. We're going to stay within the guardrails. The smart schools were like, "There going to be no guardrails. We're gone. Let's go. Pedal to the metal. This is a bunch of crap. They're going to win all these lawsuits." The smart schools went for it. Ole Miss was smart. They did it. They gave this guy. He is a huge part of why he is succeeding is what Ole Miss did. Yes, did he lift Ole Miss to another level? Sure. He's an excellent coach. But Ole Miss was ready to go to that level for him. And so to sit there and just be like, well, Lane, please, maybe. And the way, if he had come to them and said, look, I'm from Florida. The Florida has always been my thing, or LSU's always been my thing. I'm going to do this, and maybe you could go, all right, let's make a deal. But this whole drama and the play out and the little book excerpts and what are we doing? And I'm going to go on this show and say, well, next Saturday we'll make a special announcement I'm going to risk all of this. I mean, how are you a player on this? I don't blame them at all. I don't blame them at all. And then, it's the calendar. That's the problem. It's a tough break. Life is about opportunity and timing in your career, in your personal life, in everything. You buy a house and then the other house you wanted goes on sale. Oh, too late. That's life. That is life. Adults deal with it. Lane Kiffin can deal with it. He's got a great job. If he wants to leave. If he wants to stay. He can solve all of this problem. It's saying about the high school signing day is who wanted the high school signing day early? Coaches. Like, who wanted the transfer portal and coaches who want all their players showing up for the second semester of their senior year. Coaches caused the calendar, and now the coaches are sitting around going, well, this calendar's terrible. It's screwing us, and I can't just coach two teams at once. Tough break.
I want to be clear. I'm sticking by what I said. I think they should because of this opportunity. But I agree with you. I understand. I don't want this missed. I understand why they're mad. I totally get why they're mad.
I think you got that across. You were being very analytical, very smart. I'm not being smart. I'm being emotional.
I totally get why they're mad, and I don't blame them for it. And, and I don't look, there's also the side of this is you don't know what's going on in the locker room. I suspect it's not as big a deal as it might have been 8 or 10 years ago because the players can go too if they choose to. But it might be, when you start,
it has to be a factor.
Right? I'm sure it's a factor in some quarters, and I guess we'll see that either against Mississippi State if the weird tiebreaker falls their way, which is not favored to do. But if it were to fall their way, can you even imagine if they wind up in the SEC championship game? And this thing is unresolved. Now, that's not they're not favored to do so because of the various tiebreakers, but it's certainly not impossible. I mean,
better win that Friday. Better win.
How do you think it gets announced?
Hat dance. Do we do the hats like a 5-star? I mean, he's got. Come on, do it good. Do it, little Lane. Do it good for us. Yep. Brought us this far. Close it out with a flourish.
It would really be a fascinating thing too, sort of to your point about the emotion, Dan and Pete, the way the fan base is. If he decides to stay emotionally and the connection with the fans and the alignment and everything, is it going to be the same?
Oh, they'll forgive him. They'll
forgive him on the surface, but it won't be far beneath that surface. There will be some serious mistrust.
Well, and then the first big
get
job
on a plane
opens,
and leave, then announce it. I would announce it from somewhere other than Oxford, Mississippi. I would not announce it in Oxford, Mississippi. If I'm staying, they'll forgive you. It was a little rocky patch. It was Lane. This is what you get for Lane. Let's go win. He can still solve this problem.
Yeah. If he stays, the first big job opens second week in October next year. We can just make up a blue blood that, and it's just going to be this over again. Right. And that's if you're Ole Miss administrator, fan, whatever it is, that's what you're bracing for. Okay. He stays. Great. Oh, here we go again. Because and Dan pointed this out earlier, but by not declaring yet, he's certainly given a window to where his mind is. Right. And so, it's not as if he is going to commit, he's going to commit forever. So his buyout is very reasonable. I would imagine that that's not going to change exponentially if he signs a new deal at Ole Miss. Money, really, I generally believe him when money isn't a factor because Ole Miss will pay. That's the one thing about that. They will pay. So it's not going to be an apples to apples money comparison that's going to come into play here. He's going to get rich wherever he goes. Undeniably among the highest paid in the country on this. So it is unbelievable theater. It's just it is just completely fascinating. And there's at this point there's really almost no clean option. So I think last week of the podcast I said there's one clean option to stay, but even staying is just a little. It's muddier now than it was a week ago with as you've gotten emotion. And I can't imagine let's say they go 3-and-out to start the Egg Bowl on the road, or just everything is going to be viewed through the prism of this, or they get to the playoff and it's Joe Judge or Charlie Weiss Jr. or whoever is the coach, Pete Golding, and they struggle. They do that, but if they win, they are as like in line to host a college football playoff game. You think we'll be there with game day, Rece, if they host a college football?
I mean, I think it depends on where they are.
Yeah,
because I think it is likely because of which networks are going to broadcast which games. It will probably be Friday night, Saturday morning games. So it'll depend largely on the matchup. But then again, to your point with the content, maybe that carries the day. If he's coaching, if he's not coaching, maybe that's the big story of one of those playoff windows, and we wind up there. It'd be a scene. It'd be
get Katy Perry back and just do it right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lane. Thank you for giving us content.
Yeah, it's
as non-Ole Miss fans, they can hate you, but we love you. But
look, every it's like one of those sitcom things where every time I think I'm out, they suck me back in. And I said, okay, we're not going to dwell on Lane Kiffin this morning, and then we did. What's the next big coaching thing? Because comparatively, Penn State ostensibly got some other guys some raises. Guys have played really hard for Terry Smith. There's no obvious choice there. I even heard former New York Giants head coach Brian Daboll's got some support. I read someplace from some players, and he did a good job at Alabama as Nick's coordinator 1 year. So a little bit of college experience there in fairly recent years. What's happening at Penn State? I think this Lane Kiffin thing has overshadowed one of the big jobs in the country.
Sure.
And people have forgotten about it.
Yeah, I would say that there is still an aura of mystery around Penn State. Most of these other jobs, you can kind of say it's going to be these 2-3 guys. They've cast a wide net. They've talked to a lot of people. Terry Smith, the players really, really pushed for him. He's done an excellent job.
They've played hard, man.
Yeah, they have. Yeah. They have. There's no question. I have a hard time seeing it end up there just because you'd want someone that has some head coaching experience, I would think. I could see him.
Dan just told you that doesn't matter.
I know. You're right. You're right. So, it's the Penn State thing's pretty fascinating because it's been pretty quiet. It's been pretty quiet there. So that is probably of the coaching carousel, to me, the biggest enigma of who they are going to unveil. I know they shot big early, right? They really thought they could land one of these like playoff type coaches. I'd be pretty stunned if they did. That doesn't seem like any of that's lining up. There were a lot of Kalen DeBoer rumors. I've been told those are not true. So but where they go, it's gonna be really interesting.
I thought it was interesting. Terry Smith, he wore a pin the other day with Joe Paterno on it, or recognizing Joe Paterno. And we're not going to go litigate through all of that right here, or relitigate or whatever you think. But that was his coach, and he's very loyal to Joe Paterno. And there is a faction of people at Penn State that quite appealed to, and an old school bunch of people. So I thought that was an interesting.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that. That's really
interesting. Look into him saying, "Look, this is the guy that got me here. This is the guy that did." And again, we can go through all of it or not, but it was an interesting move by him, and I don't know whether that helps or hurts him getting a job at Penn State, but he did it anyway, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
One thing we haven't brought up, and really I think all year, Heisman Trophy ballots are going to be due, and I have no idea. I mean, there are a lot of good players in the country, and a lot of guys who've had really good years. But I've tried to think outside the box. Jacob Rodriguez at Texas Tech, I think he's deserving of consideration. Even what, I know people get tired of him, but some, if you're not a Vanderbilt fan, Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt it won 9 games. It might win 10. Why? I know it's not a one-man sport. I mean, this is the ultimate team sport, but he's changed the dynamic around him. I think he is worthy of being considered for it. Certainly, Mendoza, I believe it's a reasonable proposition to say Jeremiah Love's the best player. All of these things. This is one of those Heisman races, I think, that might be decided by who has the biggest last couple of weekends, who has the moment that sort of captivates you in the last weekend or two.
Yeah. I mean, Sayan's completing 80% of his passes or whatever the number is. And he's been ridiculous. I think the Sayan Mendoza if we get that 1-2. Certainly not giving Ohio State a victory in Ann Arbor from recent years. But if that's where we do end up and it's 1-2, the build up to that game will be a Heisman face-off. Assuming Ohio State wins in Columbus. So I think that could end up being kind of the stage for it. I have not put a lot of thought to my ballot, but I think it'd be hard for me to not have Mendoza and Sayin on it somewhere. Just because they've been both been so good. But yeah, I'm like wide open though. Like that's my early feel is those two have been there. But what about Trinidad Chambliss?
Yeah, I mean.
Trinidad Chambliss could be that guy. I don't know who the best player is. I don't really even care. I don't vote in the Heisman poll or anything, but I do look at the poll. Do look at the way the Heisman works. And if I was betting on this, and you can, I would look at who's got that platform. So I would say, I'm not saying Julian Sayin should win the Heisman Trophy. But Julian Sayin has an opportunity over the next 2 weeks to play in the biggest regular season game at Michigan if he plays really well. And then in the 1 versus 2 matchup, presuming he plays well, Ohio State wins. And then the 1-2 matchup, which I think everyone will watch. These will probably be the 2 highest rated games in the entire season. So if he wants to win the Heisman Trophy, he has a platform. And then I would say, yes, Mendoza has a platform. Marcel Reed might have a platform in the SEC championship game. Ty Simpson could still have a platform. Like who's got Trinidad Chambliss? People will be watching, but I don't think if they haven't rallied around him at this point, there's sort of this weird thing with the Heisman. It's like people just it's a momentum, this award, and all of a sudden everyone shifts and goes. I don't see any of these other guys have done that yet to win it. So most of these decisions, because there's a lot of very casual people who vote in this award, it's going to be on these big games remaining. Nobody has potentially 2 bigger games before the vote than Ohio State.
And I also wonder, too, if you're looking for the sensational play and moment, though I know he has missed some time, he's been banged up. What if Jeremiah Smith does something otherworldly in each of these 2 games?
He also could do it, yes.
I mean, I really think that's right or wrong. I think a lot of that's what it's going to come down to. But there haven't been performances that have been overwhelming in terms. There have been statistically, but there have been very few wow moments. And I don't know, maybe it's my predisposition as a voter. When I think of Heisman Trophy, I think of Desmond's return catch in the back of the end zone that year. I think of Tony Dorsett dodging guys and running wild. I think of Reggie Bush, the play against Fresno State. And I don't recall if that was the year he won or the year before. I voted for him both years. No offense to my friend Matt Leinart, but I voted for Bush both years, number 1 on the ballot. I think of guys, Johnny Manziel, Cam Newton, guys at Tim Tebow, guys that sort of have those moments that get etched in your brains. We're as great as this season's been. I don't know that we've had that yet. And maybe these 2 weeks among some of these guys, whether it's Sayin, whether it's Mendoza, whether it's Marcel Reed, Rodriguez potentially in the Big 12 championship game could do so, lift Texas Tech, into the playoff. Any of these things could happen. The guy who will lack that, strangely, would be Jeremiah Love. He's not going to get that. He might wind up as a finalist, but he's not going to have that platform based on who they have left to play with. All due respect to Captain Andrew Luck's ball club, who just won a big one, but that's not going to provide Love the same type of stage that the other guys are going to have now.
This is what I don't like about the Heisman is it becomes that, right? And nothing, but that's how it, like, how many moments did Travis Hunter have last year? Well, they didn't throw the ball to him very often, right? You can be the best player but that is how the award works. So if you just look at it, if most of the voters have not, and I think much like you, Rece, sitting there going, well, there's a lot of guys. Well, maybe Jeremiah Love's the best player in college football. I could certainly make that case, but he's not going to have that platform. If I was betting this, I would bet Buckeyes because one of these guys is going to have the potential to be in 2 games that will get over 20 million viewers. And no one's watched Ohio State all year since the opener. It's just the way it broke. But now everyone's going to be watching and they're sitting around going, who should I vote for? I mean, some of these voters, I don't know if they even watched half the season. and it's like, hey, Jeremiah Smith goes out and has 3 touchdowns against Wolverines, 2 more against Indiana with some crazy catches. Here's your Heisman. So they have that opportunity where other guys don't.
Dan, you live in Michigan. What's the tenor around the game right now? With Michigan is like an uneasy playoff contender, right? I think that would be the best way to say it. They've done a great job winning games, but I don't think this is the type of Michigan team that has inspired confidence that they can win. I just curious, what do you think the state of the union is in your state when you're talking to people at the grocery store and
the bar,
the gym?
At the bar.
Yeah, at the bar. Yeah, that's fair. That's where you do talk to a lot of people. You do spend a lot of time in bars. So
what's the hand?
Yeah.
I can't really speak for all the Wolverine fans. I think this is like a team that's kind of maxed out what they were capable of. They're 9-2, not a great team. Getting a look, they look pretty good against Maryland. I think most Michigan fans, and I'm sure they will tell me if I'm wrong. It's, if they can just keep the game close and they get into the third or fourth quarter, Michigan will be tougher. They'll be more physical if they can run the ball and it's tight, and they'll let what they've seen happen in the past of Ohio State get really nervous and fall apart. And they think they can win if it's close. But I don't think there's anybody or not many Michigan fans that are sitting there saying, oh yeah, we got this. This isn't a team that had, Hutchinson and Ojabu and, all these guys. And this is this juggernaut of a club. It's like, yeah, they might make the playoffs, so they're going anywhere. It's a better version than last year, perhaps, at least offensively, but it isn't a great version. This is a team that they did not look competitive against Oklahoma or USC. Everybody else they beat, all the credit to Michigan for doing that. The job is to win. They won, but it's a young team. It's a team that's a year away. They're just sitting there saying, hey, look, Ohio State tends to stumble all over. What do you guys call it? Step on a rake? They tend to step on a rake.
Yeah, Reese's trademark.
I mean, look, last year's Ohio State-Michigan game, that was one of the worst strategies, coaching performances that I've ever seen a team do. They haven't
Don't beat up
since.
Poor Chip while he's down. He just got fired.
Chip got fired. Yeah. Well, they haven't lost since, right? So like they've what is it, 15 straight, including the national title. So it's and they had won whatever, like 7 in a row before that. They'd only lost in the last play to Oregon. Like Ryan Day's program is the best program in the country, the best team going. They never lose except this game. And last year was really the one where you're like, what is wrong here? So that's kind of their, I think their tenet of their hope is maybe they'll just screw it up again and keep us close and we can win this thing. But if it's a shootout, they got to run the ball. I don't know that Ohio State is great against stopping the run. We'll see. It's just hard to know with Ohio State because they really haven't played anybody that had a competent offense. So you're like, they look great and they probably are great, but can they play a tight game? Can they do this? I don't know. Michigan, they don't look great, but they know how to win tight games. So I guess that's really it. Long about answer. It's better when I'm drinking at a bar.
I wonder, I know that for those 3 hours on Saturday, and I know you guys are going to jump all over me and tell me I'm being way too practical here. I'm not suggesting it doesn't matter, but last year it ended up not mattering. In terms of the bigger picture, it's still important to beat Michigan. You've got to beat Michigan if you're at Ohio State and vice versa. But I wonder if it will be the same sky is falling that it was last year. I mean, I've told this story many times. I was in Columbus after that, but prior to the playoff game, and there was palpable despondence around town. Found the team to be a little bit different, and that surprised me a little bit. But we ran that thing on game day that morning of myriad fans. I don't care if we ever win the national championship. I just want to beat Michigan. Then you turn around and win the national championship and you go, oh, well, that's pretty cool. You're speaking as a fan here. Yeah. So I just wonder if it will elicit the same type of doomsday feel if Michigan were to upset them again. I know people will be mad. They'll be disappointed. They should be. That's the lifeblood of this sport. But with this 12-team playoff, it's changed how things are looked at now. I mean, you just had a tangible example of a team that lost its two biggest games of the regular season and lost to its biggest rival, blow through the national championship and win it. And the team they beat in the championship game lost to Northern Illinois at home. So, all of these things that we've grown up with of, one game can absolutely destroy everything is kind of a product of a different era. And it's a different feel now. But they'll still be mad. I know them well enough to know they'll be real mad if they lose Saturday.
I think less mad, though.
Again.
I think less mad. I think they've seen it. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah.
The case for Michigan winning comes down to, how are they going to score, right? They are pedestrian on offense, limited on offense, limited at receiver. And the Ohio State defense, again, the competition has not been elite, but they have just proven to be numbingly consistently great. Yeah. What's the most points they've given up in a game this year? Is it 18? Something like that. Yeah. They are
very
historically
first
good
half
in
touchdowns.
Yes,
mm-hmm. Like things
so,
like that.
I have a hard time seeing this particular Michigan's during the Harbaugh Moore run of these games. Michigan has won these games because they've dominated the point of attack. Right? Very simple. You remember Tegra Shabola getting blown off the ball last year, whiffing assignments. That has been a point of attack program. And they are good at the point of attack right now, but I don't think they are as dominant at the point of attack as they've been. So it'd be interesting to see how aggressive Ohio State calls the game, right? Because that was one of the big issues last year with Chip and how it went. But I don't think Michigan has some type of distinct advantage in the trenches that they may have had in the past. I have a hard time seeing Michigan scoring over 20.
Well, last year, Pete, I would have had a hard time seeing them get 3 first downs. I mean, their offense is much better than it was last year.
They barely got 3 first downs, and I don't think they scored 20. What was the score last year? It was very low. No, it'll be 16, low. 13, I think. The stat in this game is always the team that rushes the most wins.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's been like that for
some crazy run. Yeah, which I think is why they tried to run it. Ohio State tried to run it. I don't know. I would pass it. But I'm not the coach. Let me say this about Ohio State. I think they actually would accept it better.
It was 13-10. Sorry.
13-10. Yeah. They didn't need a 20. I don't know if they'll need 20. If they win, that's how they win.
Yeah, that's
13-10. Yeah. Right? And if it's a shootout, forget it. Game's over.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they'd accept it better. I just don't think they accept it well. One of the things about Ohio State, Michigan is that I live in Michigan, but I'm not a Michigan fan or Ohio State fan.
You're a UMass fan, Dan. We know.
I'm a UMass
we know
fan.
Where your loyalties lie.
We're going to get that 1-11 season. It's going to happen this week or not. We'll just go 0-12. But hey, the level of intensity is more on the Ohio State side than the Michigan side. And it's Ohio State that crosses out all the M's and the governor will do this proclamation and all this stuff. And it's not that the hardcore Michigan fan doesn't care a great deal, but they don't dominate the state the way they do in Ohio, and particularly the city of Columbus. Because in Michigan, there's also Michigan State fans. There's tons of them. And there's fans of other schools, and the city of Detroit is is where Ann Arbor's kind of located. It's the main city, and they got 4 pro sports. They care about the Lions. They're really some people care about Michigan. A lot of people care about Michigan, but it doesn't have that overwhelming sense, and that's why I think Ohio State's always been like, we must win. We must win national championships. We must. And Michigan's like, hey, we're pretty good. We fill up our stadium. It's fun. We go 10-2, and for a long time they really weren't competing at that same level. I don't know that Urban Meyer's intensity would have been matched had he had taken the Michigan job than if he had taken the Ohio State job. And so it's a slightly different program. So Michigan fans, they've been enjoying this a great deal. And the hardcore ones that'll probably, tweet at me or whatever, say, this matters. And it does. But that across the whole spectrum, there's tons of, if you want to know how many people are talking about the Michigan-Ohio State game right now, most of the people I talk to aren't. It's not something if I talk to my neighbor, they're like, oh my God, big game. My neighbor went to Indiana, right? It's just
He's
a
got
little
a big
different.
one the next week. Yeah.
I think it's just a little bit different than that.
It'll be fascinating theater. It'll be a great opportunity in front of the good people of Ann Arbor. College Game Day will be there. We're going to do a podcast that'll drop. We hope to have it out by Wednesday morning, do it Tuesday night after the rankings. It'll look ahead to some of these games, break down some of the conference championship game scenarios and some playoff implications, some playoff what-ifs that we'll have for you later this week. Hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. Big meal plan, Dan. What's the favorite side? What do you got?
Booze. John Jameson. He's been coming through since like 1683 or something like that.
Pete, what do you got?
So
duck a la orange? I think you should have duck instead of turkey this year, Pete.
I don't actually like duck.
I know. I noticed. Yes. You ruined soup. Oh, you mean you actually don't like duck? Okay.
That's your revenge.
Yes. Neither does Teddy. I'm gonna eat a lot of mashed potatoes. I love mashed potatoes. They're boring like me. They're just straightforward, solid. I am a huge mashed potato fan. A little salt on there, maybe a little bit of gravy, but not too much. That is my. If I had one Thanksgiving, like portion side, whatever it is, I'm eating mashed potatoes. No offense to your Jameson, Dan.
I mean, it's consistent. It's consistent. It's there for you.
Neat.
It'll be great.
Rece, what about you? Come on, you got to talk about your wife's casserole.
My wife is an unbelievable cook. She makes this sweet potato casserole, and it's not like you think. It doesn't have marshmallows on the top. Not giving away the ingredients, because for about 20 some odd years, my friend Mark May has had this dream. He and my wife Lee going into business together and mass marketing this particular recipe. So, but it's fabulous. It's my favorite. It functions as both sweet potatoes as a side to your turkey, and can also function as dessert. She makes a giant vat of it, and I eat all of it for days until it's all gone. So it's that's the best. That's the best. Going to be a lot of good eating, a lot of good football. Hope you and your families listening. Thank you for listening all year, and we'll continue to be with you. Hope you have a wonderful and joyous Thanksgiving, and listen to the College Game Day podcast. Download wherever you prefer to get your podcast, or subscribe, and never miss a single episode. And congratulations to Captain Andrew Luck.